create a Vue website, and then we will actually deploy that Vue website on Firebase so that it is up on the cloud. And this is a short video showing how things can be done. So there's a few things that you need to install. The first thing is you need to install Visual Studio Code. So you will search for Visual Studio Code and download the Mac OS 10, like this version. If you are on Windows, you'll install this one. So you install that. So once you have installed that, I think like I already have the Visual Studio Code over here, so I'm not going to install it, but it should be a pretty simple install. Like should take like less than a minute to install. Okay, so once your Visual Studio is installed, you need to install another thing, which is Node.js. So you'll say install Node.js with I think Node.js and npm. So you'll click over here, and you will actually go to I think like this site, download the Node.js and npm. So it is nodejs.org/en. So you will go to nodejs.org/en and download the 13.1 current, which is going on right now, and just install that. So these are the two things that you will actually need to install. I think the install should be very simple for this one too. Should take like less than a minute or two for installing that. So once you have installed that, then what you do is you go to cd or you just open your terminal window. So you'll just say like terminal, and you'll just open your terminal window. And after that, what you will do is you would want to install the Vue CLI, right? So CLI is a command line interface. So you'll say for let's actually do without sudo. I think it'll crash. It'll not let you install without sudo. So let's do it that way. npm install is I, and -g is for global, and then what we are installing is npm/CLI. So we want to no, not npm/CLI, Vue/CLI. So we are installing Vue CLI, and I is install and G is global. So we start this. This will start to install our Vue CLI globally on this computer. And hopefully it should install very soon. I think it crashes sometimes, like for some yeah, so permission denied. So it gets for permission denied. So for that, what you do is sudo super user do, and then you say npm I -g, and then you will say @Vue/CLI. And then you would actually have to enter the password for your computer. So you do that, and this should install your Vue CLI. For Windows computers, like this problem should not be there. I think like you probably need to install on a admin prompt for Windows. I haven't tried on Windows, so I don't know that. So let's see what this does. And so I think installed, added like 1076 packages and 624 contributors and stuff like that. So I'll clear this and say ls. Okay, so I will go to my documents folder, and then I will go to operating system folder, and then what I will do is I want to create so now Vue CLI is installed. So now I want to create a Vue application. So how I will do it is I'll say Vue create, and then I'll say test-project. Okay, so I'm just saying test project right now, and there should not be any capital letters in this, so I'm just saying test project, and this will actually start doing this. So I will manually select, so I'll go press arrow key down, and then go to manually select features and press enter. Once I press enter, it'll ask me what do I want. So I will want a router. For that, router will help me to figure out like which pages I want to go, and then it will I want a Vuex, and then I think that should be it for now, and we have a linter or formatter which we are going to use. Okay, so I'll press next, and then it says that do I want a history mode. I'll say no, and then it is asking me which linter to use, and I will use ESLint plus prettier, which will help me format my code. So I'll say okay, and lint on save, which means that when I save, when I press Control S, it'll actually go there and then format my code. So I'll say okay, and I want all the things in my dedicated config file, and I'll say okay. I don't want to save this as a future project, so I'll say okay. So now this is creating a new project for me, a sample boilerplate project for me using Vue CLI. We can actually do the same thing using a UI too. For that, we would actually have to say Vue space UI, and Vue space UI will actually open a web browser, and we can do the same things that we did over here using the web browser too. So now it is completing everything, and now our project is complete. So our test project is complete, and it says that we should go to cd test project. So it says cd test project, and then it says do a npm run serve. So npm run serve, what it will do is it will basically start a node.js instance, and then actually start a server, localhost port 8080, and then we can go to localhost port 8080, and then we can actually see that there is a web page. This is a boilerplate web page given by Vue.js, which is actually there, right? So that is good. We can actually say Control C, and our project is complete. Let's actually go to Visual Studio Code, and then I will actually say open the folder, and I will go to operating system, documents, operating system, test project, the project that I said, and then I'll say open. So I can see that there is node modules. So these are all the libraries and stuff. There is a public folder where I have the index.html, and there is this app ID, which we actually talked about for the Vue, where there is an app ID. And then all our source code is inside here. Assets, you will actually have your images and all this other stuff over there. Components are the different components that you can make. The router, in the router we can actually see that there was a home page. So this is a router for the home page, and this is for the about page. And then we have our views. One is view for the home page and view for the about page. And then we have a app.view, which is basically the main thing, and then we have a view. So this was the main.js, the one that we did in the class, and we were initializing a view file, so a view object. So this is basically that. Okay, so we have all of this which is running, and absolutely wonderful. Next, what we will do is I can actually do or run all the commands from here also. But the thing is that we actually have a command terminal in Visual Studio Code. So I'll press Control and tilde, and that will actually bring up the command. So I can just say npm run serve over here, and this will also do the same thing which was done by the terminal over here. So I can say localhost. So if I go over here and say localhost 8080, it is doing the same thing. Okay, so everything is good till now. That is good. One thing that I actually forgot to tell you is that this is for running it locally, but when I want to build it for the production, I don't want to these files. I actually want minified files and all this other kind of things. So what I will do is I'll say npm run build. So when I do npm run build, you can actually see that these were the folders over here, and this is building for production. And then you can see that there's a folder that appeared over here called dist, which actually has all our CSS, our image, the JavaScript files, icons, and the index.html. So the index.html if I format the document, you can see that it has a head and there's a body and all this other kind of things, right? So that is basically our index.html, which is there. And that is basically the production level file that is there. Okay, so we have created a boilerplate Vue CLI project. And let's actually do this. Let's actually go to, instead of dist, we'll go to public index.html. We'll actually go and include Bootstrap. Bootstrap. We'll search for Bootstrap. Click over here, getting started. We'll copy the CSS. And we'll just paste the CSS over here in the index.html. And that is good. So now we have a Bootstrap over here too. So that is very good. Next, what I want is I actually want to integrate Firebase with it. So for integrating Firebase, I have to install Firebase tools. So I'll say npm and install -g and Firebase -tools. Okay, so this is running, and I'll say command B to make more space. And okay, so I need to do the same thing, sudo npm install -g. I think I already have this installed, so that's why it is complaining. I think it's installed, but it's still asking for password. It's still asking for permissions. So I will do that, and this should actually install all the packages and stuff like that. So we have Firebase installed, as well as we have npm installed and our build. So we can actually say npm run build again, so that this will actually include our file which has the Bootstrap into it. Okay, so now things are ready over here, and this can be deployed. Okay, so what should we do? So we will actually go and say Firebase init. This will initialize the Firebase because it requires authentication, so we need to log in. So we'll say Firebase login, and I'll just say yes. And basically this asks me to log in our Google account, and I will log in this Google account. And then I'll say I want to allow Firebase CLI to actually access these things. So now I'm successfully logged in. Okay, so I'm successfully logged in over here, and then I will say Firebase init. So Firebase init will ask me, what do you want to initialize? So I'm saying that I want hosting. So I'll press arrow key down and then press a space bar to select hosting, and I'll say enter. And it'll ask me, do you want to use an existing project or do you want to create a new project? So we already had a project, so I'll say use an existing project. And that was in operating system this, Twitter. I select that, press the arrow keys and press enter. And then it is saying, what do you want to use as your public directory? So our public directory, if we look over here, was the dist folder. So I want to use dist. And you can see that already Firebase has added a file called firebase-debug something. So we'll say dist and configure this as a single page app, rewrite all the URLs. No, I don't want to do that. And then it just wrote a 404 file, and index.html already exists. Do you want to override it? No, I don't want to override it. And then Firebase initialization is complete. So so there's a Firebase, we will go to dist, and there's index.html. And I think this should, actually we have a div ID, and then we have our scripts over here. So I think things are looking good. Okay, so we have initialized the Firebase project, and then so Firebase project basically added started saying that dist folder is the folder from where we will install all the files, and then I have a Firebase rc file which says that this is the project that I am using. So, and there's a Firebase JSON file which is saying that dist is the folder where I need to actually I pick up all the files from here and then go to the project operating system Twitter over there and then deploy a website over there. Okay, so now we want to deploy. Earlier we were running locally, now we want to deploy it on the cloud. So what we'll say is Firebase deploy and then press enter. And basically it's just deploying all the files. It found 11 files in the dist folder and it is deploying all those files. And now I will actually go to firebase.google.com and go to the console, and this was my project. And if I go and see hosting over here, I can actually see that there's website over here. So operating system twitter.firebaseapp.com. So I click over here, I can see that the same file which was local is actually hosted over here. So what is actually happening is that Firebase, it actually took my project name and then it said project name.firebaseapp.com, and it basically created a subdomain on firebaseapp.com called operating system Twitter, which is the name of my project. Then what happened is it in one of the thousands and thousands of computers of Google Cloud, it basically created a node.js in one of those computer, and then it basically created an instance of copied all my files from my dist folder into that node.js, and then if anybody types operating system twitter.firebaseapp.com, it will basically map this to that folder. So everything which is out there in that cloud will basically be rendered on their web page. So that is basically how we can actually deploy code, deploy a website made in Vue.js to Firebase hosting. Next, what we will learn is we will actually learn how to add a login into our pages, and then how to use Bootstrap to actually make our page look beautiful and not have the boilerplate things over there. Okay, thank you.